to actually move the mayor? No? Because if you do, that would be really handy for us. But apparently during some conversations between yourself, apparently you've alleged, we weren't here, so I don't know if you said it, but you've alleged to say, speak English? Or was that effect?
Speak clearly.
Speak clearly.
No, the gentleman's passed on the desk.
Yeah, he can speak clearly.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Did we just know this was going to happen?
People, you know, if someone says to me, officer, I believe this, then we need to look at it, because someone's potentially reporting.
Here at Caroline Levitt holding briefings exclusively for members of the new media to mark President Trump's first 100 days in office and fulfill her day one promise to speak to all outlets. Well, my next guest was in attendance at one of these exclusive briefings, and he asked the White House about free speech asylum. Watch.
In Britain, we have had a quarter of a million people issued non-crime hate incidents. As we speak, there are people in prison for quite literally reposting memes. Would the Trump administration consider political asylum for British citizens in such a situation?
Well, to your latter question, it's a very good one. I have not heard that proposed to the president, nor have I spoken to him about that idea, but I certainly can and talk to our national security team and see if it's something the administration would entertain.
Grammy Award-winning rock star and former banjoist with Mumford & Sons, Winston Marshall, asked that question, and he joins me now. Winston, it's great to have you on the show. What a great question. I don't really make a pastime of gratuitous compliments, but it was unique, something we haven't thought about before, and a good question that highlights what exactly is happening over there in the UK.
Thanks, well, thanks for having me on the show. Yes, actually, I asked two questions. I'd like to come to the one that you didn't show in a moment, because it's just as important. But I was asking about free speech because in Britain we have a real free speech crisis at the moment. This has happened under Conservative governments as well as Sir Keir Starmer's Labour government. And I mentioned non-crime hate incidents, of which there are 250,000 that have been issued for crimes as petty as a schoolgirl calling a classmate was saying that she smelt like fish. Another example is whistling the Bob the Builder theme tune at a neighbour. Quite literally anything that anyone might deem offensive, they can be booked under a non-crime hate incident. but I was more specifically referring to political speech, and there are several people who have been faced criminals charges for political speech. Everything from transgressing on trans ideology, as the former police officer Harry Miller found out when he tweeted, I identify as a fish, don't mis-species me, and he got a knock on the door from the police. We've had journalists had the police turn up on at their doorsteps for things that they have written on X. I'm referencing Alison Pearson here, and ever since last year's terrible murders in Southport at the Taylor Swift dance party class, where 3 young girls horrifically lost their lives, and there were, after that, riots across the country. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, also set up a task force to deal with misinformation online. And amongst the people cranked down on, we have one person who named Lee Dunn, who was charged 8 weeks for reposting memes. We had one girl called Cameron Bell, who live-streamed the aftermath of the riots. She just live-streamed them on TikTok, and the aftermath, not even the riot itself, and she was given 9 months for that. And on the horizon, I have to mention this, is that the government are also currently discussing Islamophobia law, so it will be illegal to criticize Islam.
Well, with all that in mind that you've laid out for us, Winston, I'm curious what your response is to Keir Starmer when he sits in the White House and corrects Vice President J.D. Vance on the UK's dedication, long-standing, as he put it, dedication to the concept of free speech. What would you say to Keir Starmer?
Frankly, it was so ridiculous, I spit out my coffee and burst into laughter. I think most of my compatriots back home did the same. It's absolutely ludicrous. Now, I don't think that Keir Starmer is, or rather I should say the Conservative Party have been much better on this issue, but since Starmer has come to power, since July last year, things have only got worse. It's absolutely ludicrous that he might think that he is that he or Britain is a safe place for free speech today. So it's absurd, and I've already given some of those examples.
Right. Have you received a follow-up answer from Caroline Leavitt or the White House to your question? She said it was a good issue she hadn't yet considered. She would discuss it with the president. I'm curious, have you yet heard an answer on whether or not there would be free speech asylum here in the U.S.?
She has said that she would talk about it with the administration. Since then, one senator, Senator Mike Lee, posted about it on X, indicating that he was considering it, and I won't portray the confidence of two individuals within the administration who have privately told me they really like the idea. So I don't think it's an idea that's necessarily going away. I would like to briefly talk about the other question I asked, because it's related to free speech as well, and our tariff trade deals. So I asked, you'll remember your Vice President, J.D. Vance, saying at the Munich conference in February how important free speech was to America, and how concerned he was seeing the state of it, or the censorious nature of Europe and Britain today. He referenced someone who'd been arrested and charged for praying an Alex Smith Connor outside an abortion clinic, and he's continued to push this. Now, he has said, no free speech, no deal. Our Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, has said in the negotiations with the US Commerce Department that there's been no mention of free speech. So this is a really key thing that I want to understand. Is free speech now no longer on the table? And I didn't get a clear answer from Madam Leavitt, but she seemed to say it was important still for J.D. Vance.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Winston, you asked some very intrepid and interesting questions today at that press conference. Should we speak to the vice president or anyone else in the administration who's dealing with these tariff negotiations? We will find out if a dedication to free speech is a requirement to striking a deal over tariffs. And I appreciate you bringing up this issue, because free speech is not just an American issue, but it's a founding concept of Western civilization. And we appreciate you being a champion, Winston Marshall.
We are being lied to about what the welcome to country is about. We're being told in Australia that it's really just a harmless, non-political welcome to territory under the custodianship of traditional owners, and that's it. It's not a welcome to Australia. So we shouldn't feel that we're sort of being dispossessed or told that we're outsiders. Wrong. This is an article published in the Sydney Morning Herald the day after the infamous Welcome to Country at the last Anzac Day. It's published by Associate Professor of Indigenous Studies at Melbourne University, Jessa Rogers. And she explains exactly what a Welcome to Country is. And here we go. When a Welcome to Country is performed, it is about recognizing that wherever you stand on this vast continent, that is, wherever you stand, you are on someone's sovereign, unceded land. Okay, so every square inch of Australia is sovereign, unceded Indigenous land. Okay, what do we mean by sovereignty? Well, the word sovereign is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary as having the highest power or being completely independent. So every inch of Australia, and whenever a welcome to country is declared, we are being told that that territory, that land that we are on, the highest power, the highest independent power in that land is actually Indigenous authority, that particular tribe. How is that not political? We're basically being told that the Australian government is not the highest authority on that land, or the Australian people is the highest authority, but that Indigenous tribe is the highest authority. That is a political concept. What does the word cede mean? That, again, we are told that every bit of territory in Australia is unceded. Well, to cede, again, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, to allow someone else to have or own something. So again, what we are being told in every welcome to country is that the land that we are on is in actual fact land that does not belong to Australians, because it has never been handed over, it has never been ceded. It is land that belongs to that traditional tribe. So every welcome to country is a political declaration that that land is sovereignly controlled by Indigenous Australians, that it has never ever been ceded over, and therefore the Australians on it are being welcomed, because in actual fact they are outsiders, and without that welcome they have absolutely no right to be on someone else's sovereign land. That is what the welcome to country is about, and that's why we should reject it.